I'm recording this on the last day of June 2026, and I just want to say I rebuke officially everything that has happened in the first half of this year. For starters, I can't believe that I fell for "this is the year that I lock in" trap. I kind of had to tell myself that because 2025 was easily the worst year of my life. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Family-wise, work-wise, my summer was a mess. My winter was just crawling to the finish line. Horrid mess. By this time last year, I was just brutally burnt out with everything that was going on in my life, and I needed a break. I can't tell you something like no one was there for me or I had to figure out everything by myself, because that's a lie. What did happen was that a lot of people that were in my circle showed their true colors. And not only that, but I learned how ill-prepared I was to deal with any sort of interruption to my perfect plan. It's kind of funny because back when I started college years ago, I was beginning my self-help kick, and it was genuinely working. Like, I wasn't doing it for anybody else, I was doing it for myself. And those years that I were in college were genuinely amazing. I didn't fall into the usual traps. I was about my business, I was about my schoolwork, my actual work. I was spending more time with my family, and everything fell apart literally 1 month after I finished all of my work for school. I submitted my final assignment on December 10th, 2024, and January 11th, 2025 is when everything fell apart. That was the day that I had a family member suffer a stroke right before my eyes. When we talk about the word trauma, I never thought that I would really grasp it until you have that image in your mind, like solidified in the back of your brain, in the forefront of your brain for a long time, and then in the back of your brain as time moves on. But of course, I tried to do the classic thing of shutting it out and just going back to work and continuing like basically nothing was wrong. And I shut out everybody else along the way too, even though there was plenty of people that supported me and my family. I just didn't really know how to accept it. So in the middle of 2025, about a year ago from now, I completely lost it with everything that was going on, and I just decided that I needed a change and I needed to enact it right now. Because, especially at work, there was no way that I could continue under those circumstances and keep my sanity, so I left that job. The thing about leaving a job that you worked at for the last 3 years out of the blue is that all of your routines and all of the normalcy in your life is just upended in one day. So as I said, the latter half of 2025 was just me limping to the finish line. I watched all the videos, I was reading all the self-help books, I was journaling to end the year, and I convinced myself that that was enough to go into 2026 strong. And for the most part, it was. I actually did complete my goal for January of this year, which was to cut out all adult content. However, as soon as the month was over, I went right back to it. And I did it just enough that I could convince myself that it wasn't problematic. Since then, I've essentially been fighting it, which might sound like a good thing, but if you listen to anyone who's more knowledgeable than me on the topic, you know that fighting it, or just fighting your urges in general, is the easiest way to have it build pressure and for you to fall back into the bad habit. I basically became subject to this little thing called the binge purge cycle, which is when you mentally allot a day or a period of time where you can go on a binge or go back to the bad habit, but then you become so overwhelmed with guilt that you decide you're going to purge it from all aspects of your life, which of course starts the habit of fighting it again and leads you right back to a day where you mentally allot a time for binging. So even if I only do it once or twice a month or even less than that, I'm still subject to the cycle. And even beyond that, I fell into this new trap of thinking that because I had a minor success in that one area, that I could trust my abilities in any area. And I essentially went into March and April with this overconfidence and trying to complete everything at once. So there were 3 main things that I was trying to fix at once, and trying to do all of it just pulled me in a direction that I couldn't even manage. Firstly was getting a job, which just brought me a bunch of stress, constantly checking every email and going through a bunch of ghost jobs. I'm sure you've watched 1,000 videos explaining the humiliation ritual that is applying for a job anytime in the past 2 years, really. Secondly, going to a gym. I was going to a gym just to play ball. Like, I work out and lift at home. I was going to a gym just to play ball. And there was this one week where I decided that I need to go every day in this week to prove to myself that I could do it. I'm not kidding when I say that each and every day was worse than the last. The first day, I pulled my shoulder. The second day, somebody ran into my thigh mad hard. It took it like 4 weeks to heal. The third day, somebody stepped so hard on my big toe, the toenail still hasn't grown back to this day. And then the last 2 days were just me trying to play on all of those injuries. Those first two things only made the last thing worse, which was fixing my horrendous sleep schedule. Since I haven't been employed since I left the job at this time last year, every routine and sense of normalcy, like I said, has just been thrown out the window. And of course, since I don't have a strict schedule anymore, I'm just waking up and going to sleep whenever the hell I want, which is horrible. Where I live, it's already kind of dark and cloudy and depressing for, I want to say 60% of the year. So if you're not regularly getting sunlight when you can, you're basically just inviting depression into your life. It was, and arguably still is, this cycle of overcompensation in one area while fucking over the other two. And all of this constant going and going and going meant that in all of this time, I wasn't ever truly resting. I was just accelerating this burnout that was carrying over from the previous year. Thankfully, in May and June, God slowed down my life and He gave me ways and time to reassess my values and what actually matters to me. Typically, when I'm journaling, I might just recall the events of the day or what made me smile or just what brought me down incredibly. But one day I just had to question, why was I in such a rush to fix everything? And I realized that at the heart of it was I felt that I had something to prove to the people around me. So continuing with that thought for a little bit, I was able to get to the bottom of why it was so stupid to do that. The people around me already have their own lives to deal with. Not to mention, if I'm so concerned with what they're doing or thinking, then I'm not moving myself forward. And I'm not even entirely convinced that they would help me in any meaningful way if I reached out to them for help. And to add on to that, the person that I really, truly, deeply cared about their opinion and how to better myself in their eyes passed away last year, and I had to spend all this time dealing with that. It makes no sense to go down a path like that with people that I'm not even really invested in the opinion of. And God was still showing me that I don't have to do it all myself. Because as I'm at this peak loneliness moment and I'm scrambling in all these areas that I'm trying to fix, the New York Knicks begin doing well in the playoffs. That sets the stage for me to reconnect with a bunch of old friends that I hadn't seen in years. And obviously the Knicks went on to win the championship. So when that's over, I had the space to ask myself even more questions. Like, have I been surrounding myself with the things that I love? Because when I was watching basketball and with my friends and family and the entire city was jumping, I got to see how much of a different person I felt like when the things I love were around me. I know it can't be like that all the time, but I know I would much rather work to replicating that feeling instead of pulling myself in 1,000 different directions and having myself master none of them. So being my most objective, I haven't made much progress from 2025. But what I do know is that I have a blueprint. The first part of this blueprint is accepting that you cannot mess up anything that was meant for you. All of these opportunities I feel like I have with work or hanging out or working out, if I feel like it's not coming to fruition, it's because it's not meant to happen in that fashion. There has to be more work to be done. And usually that work for me comes in the form of not overdoing it, not overcompensating. I think the best way that I can put it is that I know it's difficult for a lot of people to focus in a cluttered space. Doing too much at once is kind of like saying, okay, I'm going to clean up this area while putting 5 more things in this other area of my room. It's never going to be uncluttered and you're never actually going to be able to work. I think at this point, I've seen a lot of the messiness, and even though I don't know exactly what to do, I think I know the specifics of what better works for me. To add on to that, I know that I can take advice and learn from other people. I don't have to do it myself, but I don't have to force what works for other people onto my routines and strategies. For example, even this video, this isn't supposed to be exactly how you're supposed to do it or even approach thinking about it. It's just advice. What I do know without a shadow of a doubt is that I don't have to stay in environments that bring me stress. I have to change my room if that's what's necessary to work freely. The first half of 2026 has shown me that my brain craves a reset point. By resetting with a new month or a new week or a new day, I can give myself the chance to attempt a host of new things that actually move me forward. But if I give each of them individual respect, it's only if I do that, then I can actually move forward. The issue is kind of, if I constantly reset, I'm denying myself consistent progress. It doesn't mean that all of my work so far is meaningless, but there are glaring flaws in the way that I've been approaching it. I don't want to do that in the second half of this year. If anything I said resonated with you on any deep level, please drop a like and tell me whether or not the first half of 2026 has been terrible or if it's been perfect. I'll see y'all in the next one.